I love working with my hands. I've been doing a lot of projects around the house, and I just remember always wanting to dig in. I can't just go by and watch. Got to get the hands dirty.
He has spent nearly 4 decades on American television teaching millions of people how to build, fix, and restore homes, and he never once trained for it in a classroom. Tom Silva started with a shovel, a Cold War scare, and a hole in the ground under a house that was already 200 years old. Since then, he has outlasted 3 hosts, watched colleagues retire and pass away, and quietly become the longest-serving active expert in the history of this old house. So when fans started noticing changes, a nephew taking on more of the work, co-stars disappearing, and questions circulating about what was really going on, they weren't imagining things. Something had shifted. The story of what actually happened to Tom Silva is more interesting than most people realize. While fans were asking if he left, the show around him was quietly falling apart. Here's the thing most people scrolling for answers about Tom Silva don't expect to find. The reason there are so many questions about him isn't because of anything he did. It's because of everything that changed around him and the speed at which it changed. Start with Norm Abram. For 43 years, Norm was the master carpenter of this old house, the man in the plaid shirt who measured twice and cut once, who turned a background construction role into a national television career and earned 20 Emmy Awards along the way. He and Tom Silva had been working side by side since the late 1980s. They were, in the eyes of most long-term viewers, the backbone of the show. Then, in October 2022, Norm officially retired. PBS gave him a 1-hour tribute special called The House That Norm Built. He was gone. Before viewers had fully absorbed that, Roger Cook, the show's landscape contractor and another fixture going back to 1982, had already stepped away. Cook had announced a battle with an undisclosed illness in 2019 and retired from the show in 2020. He passed away in August 2024. 2 pillars of the show, gone within a few years of each other. At the same time, viewers started noticing that Charlie Silva, Tom's nephew, was showing up more, taking on more visible roles, leading more segments. To longtime fans who remembered when Charlie was just a guy in the background of construction shots, this looked like a quiet handoff. Add in the fact that Tom was 77 years old in 2024, and suddenly, the internet had a theory. Tom Silva was on his way out too. He isn't. He has said plainly that he has no intention of fully stepping away from the show or from Silva Brothers construction. He remains the general contractor on both This Old House and Ask This Old House, and official sources confirm his active involvement in the most recent seasons. But the pattern of departures around him was real, and it explains exactly why fans started asking questions. When you watch 2 of your favorite people leave and a younger family member start filling their space, the math looks obvious, even when it's wrong. The hole in the ground that started everything. To understand Tom Silva, you have to go back to a house that was already 175 years old when he was born, and a decision his family made under it that would shape the next 7 decades of his life. Tom was born on January 17, 1947, in Lexington, Massachusetts. His father, Richard Silva, was a builder. His mother and grandmother were both seamstresses. By Tom's own account, he grew up in the trades before he ever knew that was what it was called. He remembers being 3 or 4 years old, following his father around construction sites with a hammer, breaking things. That's where it started. Not in a trade school, not in a formal apprenticeship, but in the grip of a toddler swinging a tool he barely understood. The family lived in a 1787 colonial in Lexington, a house that was already approaching 2 centuries old. During the Cold War, with nuclear anxiety running high across American suburbs, the Silva family decided to build a fallout shelter underneath it. Not a contractor-built bunker, not a professional installation. Tom, his father, and his brothers dug it out by hand. The shelter measured 20 feet by 40 feet, 12 feet deep. They dug through the soil and hauled away boulders. Then they framed it and finished it. It took 2 years. Tom has talked about that project in interviews as the moment everything clicked. "It took us 2 years," he said, "and I felt such pride in what we had accomplished that I knew I wanted to do this for a living." That's not a polished origin story cleaned up for television. That's a kid who dug a hole with his family for 2 years and came out the other side knowing exactly who he was. From there, Tom and his brother Richard, along with their nephew Charlie, formalized what they'd been doing informally for years. They founded Silva Brothers Construction, a general contracting company based in Lexington, Massachusetts. The company quietly built a reputation in the Boston area for quality and reliability. The kind of reputation that doesn't come from marketing, but from tradespeople talking to each other about who shows up on time, does the work correctly, and doesn't cut corners on a finish. That reputation is what eventually put them in front of a PBS camera crew. Before the television connection materialized, Tom spent years in the field deepening his craft the same way most skilled tradespeople do, through volume and variety. He has talked about enjoying driving down roads in the Boston area with his children and pointing out houses he built 40 years earlier. That's not nostalgia. That's the confidence of someone who knows the work was done right and knows it will still be standing long after the conversation ends. His appreciation for old techniques, the ones that last, is something he's cited repeatedly as central to his approach. He was never afraid to try a new tool or material, but he always weighed it against the question of whether it would hold up. That standard, instilled by his father and reinforced by his own years in the trade, became the thing that defined Silva Brothers Construction's reputation before anyone at PBS had ever heard of them. How a Victory Garden set led to 40 years of television. Most people who end up on television spend years trying to get there. Tom Silva got there almost by accident, and then almost turned it down. Silva Brothers Construction's first television connection came through The Victory Garden, a WGBH Boston production focused on gardening and outdoor projects. The show needed a set built in the parking lot of WGBH's facilities, and Silva Brothers got the job. They built it. They did good work. Nobody put them on camera. That wasn't the point. But it put them inside the orbit of public television in Boston, which turned out to matter enormously. Russell Morash was the creator and producer of This Old House, which had been running on PBS since 1979, with Bob Vila as the first host. Morash discovered Silva Brothers while they were conducting a major restoration on an 1845 Greek revival-style house, the kind of structural, detail-oriented work that tells an experienced eye exactly what a crew is capable of. Morash was impressed enough to invite Tom and his crew to become the permanent general contractors for the show. But here's the detail the sample scripts always skip. Tom didn't just walk onto the show in 1986 as a full cast member. He first appeared in Season 9, a brief scene about kitchen cabinets on the Westwood Project, the same season that became a cult classic for its infamous dispute between host Bob Vila and the homeowners over the direction of the renovation. Tom became a full regular in Season 10, which was 1987 to 1988. He was already a fan of the show before he was ever on it, and he has said in interviews that watching Norm Abram work made him want to raise his own standards. The show Tom joined was very different from the one that exists today. Under Bob Vila, This Old House was built around one dominant personality. Vila was the face, the voice, and the center of gravity of every episode. Cast members later noted that the show became much more of an ensemble after Vila left in 1989, fired by WGBH after he made commercials for Rickle Home Centers, a direct competitor of Home Depot, which was one of the show's primary underwriters. That change, from a one-star model to an ensemble, turned out to be exactly the format where Tom thrived. He was never the host. He was always the expert. And in a format built around experts, that made him essential. Three hosts have come and gone since Tom joined: Vila, Steve Thomas, and now Kevin O'Connor, who has held the role since 2003. Tom has outlasted all of them in terms of continuous service. The show has won 20 Emmy Awards and received over 80 nominations across its run. It's been parodied on Saturday Night Live, Home Improvement, and In Living Color. It has spun off into Ask This Old House, Trade School, and a magazine that ran from 195 until 2024. Through all of it, Tom Silva has been the one constant on the construction side. The sewing, the books, and the career nobody expected him to have. Tom Silva is widely known as a general contractor and a television expert. What he's less known for is equally interesting, and it fills in a more complete picture of who he actually is away from the job site. Start with this. Tom Silva used to sew, not as a passing hobby. He made his daughter Kate's clothing when she was in grammar school. He has said it ranks as the #1 thing viewers are most surprised to learn about him. For someone who built his identity around construction and the trades, it's a telling detail, because it points to a precision and patience in the man that goes beyond what you see on camera. His mother and grandmother were both seamstresses. He grew up in a house where using your hands to make something correctly and carefully wasn't limited to construction. It carried across everything he did, and it still shows in the way he approaches a build, measuring carefully, planning before cutting, never rushing a finish. That same precision shows up in his writing. Tom has contributed to multiple published works under the This Old House umbrella. In 2000, he co-authored The Homeowner's Manual, Advice on Maintaining Your Home, alongside Richard Trethewey and Steve Thomas. In 2004, he contributed to Complete Remodeling and Complete Landscaping, both published by This Old House Books in conjunction with Sunset Books. He also serves on the editorial board of This Old House magazine, where his work and advice have been featured regularly throughout the publication's run. These aren't celebrity vanity projects. They are practical reference books aimed at the same audience he spent 40 years speaking to on television. Beyond the writing, Tom was appointed Senior Vice President of Marketing and Strategy at the Alter Group, one of the country's leading commercial real estate development firms. That's a title that has nothing to do with swinging a hammer, and everything to do with what 4 decades of trusted public expertise actually builds. His name, his credibility, and the specific kind of authority that comes from being genuinely good at something for a very long time. That's what the Alter Group was bringing on board. It's the kind of appointment that only happens when an industry believes you understand not just how buildings are constructed, but how people think about them. In 2017, Tom also became one of the featured experts on This Old House Trade School, a spin-off that aired on the CW network and was repurposed to meet educational and informational programming requirements for viewers 13 to 16 years old. The show was designed to give younger audiences a real look at what working in the trades actually looks like, featuring Tom alongside Norm Abram, Richard Trethewey, and Roger Cook. It ran as part of the One Magnificent Morning programming block, a network slot typically reserved for content aimed at young people. The fact that a show about carpentry and plumbing was positioned in that slot is a measure of how broadly respected the This Old House brand had become, and Tom was one of the faces carrying it into a new demographic. Tom also does personalized video messages through Cameo, where he has accumulated over 80 reviews from customers who ordered videos for birthdays, home repair questions, and gifts for fellow fans of the show. The reviews are consistently warm and detailed, people describing the videos as prized possessions, noting that he went above and beyond what was asked. One review from December 2024 even thanked his daughter Kate for helping with the technical side. It's a small thing, but it shows a man who is still actively engaged with his audience more than 4 decades in, and doing it personally, not through a publicist. His net worth as of 2024 is estimated at around $5 million, built across television, Silva Brothers Construction, his publishing work, speaking engagements, and his corporate role. He is available for booking as a keynote speaker, with real estate listed as his primary speaking topic. Further evidence of how far the general contractor from Lexington has traveled from that fallout shelter. Charlie Silva, Generation Next, and what Tom is actually building now. The question viewers keep coming back to isn't really whether Tom Silva has left. It's about what comes after him. And the answer is already being built, quietly and deliberately, in the background of the show he's been part of for nearly 40 years. Charlie Silva is Tom's nephew and the current president of Silva Brothers Construction. His path onto the show mirrors Tom's own in some ways. He started as a background presence, someone you'd spot in a construction shot if you were paying attention, before gradually taking on more visible segments and eventually becoming a named regular. Charlie first began appearing consistently around 2016. By the time Norm Abram retired in 2022, Charlie was already established enough that Norm spoke directly about him during his retirement tribute, saying that the same blood that made Tom great runs through Charlie, and that Charlie has the craft and the work ethic to keep the company moving. That's not a throwaway compliment from a man stepping away from 43 years of work. That's a genuine endorsement from someone who watched Charlie develop up close. Charlie now handles most of the day-to-day managerial responsibilities at Silva Brothers Construction. Tom remains involved on complex technical problems and historic preservation projects, the kind of work that draws on decades of accumulated judgment rather than physical labor. It's a natural evolution, not a replacement. And from what Tom has said publicly, it's entirely intentional. He's been building the next generation of the business the same way his father built him, through work, proximity, and high standards. That ethos extends beyond the family. Tom is one of the main figures behind the This Old House Generation Next program, an initiative designed to connect young people with career opportunities in the skilled trades. He participates in outreach personally, visiting vocational schools, speaking to apprentices, and mentoring the next wave of builders and craftspeople. At a time when the trades are facing a well-documented shortage of skilled workers, Tom's involvement in Generation Next is not ceremonial. It's his answer to a real problem, applied in the most direct way he knows how, showing up and teaching someone. Away from the job sites and the mentorship programs, Tom's life outside the show has always been anchored in the same values. He and his wife Susan have been together since the late 1980s. Over 30 years married. They have 2 children, a son named TJ and a daughter named Kate. The family lives in a Boston suburb in a 19th century house that Tom continues to renovate, using his own skills on his own home, the same way he has on dozens of others over 4 decades. He's also a dedicated boating enthusiast, which is how he spends most of his time when he's not in a shop or on a job site. When he's not on the water, he's usually in his woodworking shop building furniture, quietly doing the same thing he's always done because he never stopped loving it. The This Old House universe is still expanding. In September 2025, a new spin-off was announced, This First House, aimed at younger homebuyers navigating their first property. It will premiere in 2026. The radio version of This Old House is now airing on public radio stations, following an announcement from American Public Media and KPCC Los Angeles in March 2025. The brand Tom Silva has been part of since 1986 is bigger now than it has ever been. And Tom is still in it, still the general contractor, still the guy who can look at a structure and tell you in 30 seconds what's wrong with it and exactly how to fix it. The show has changed around him more times than most people can track. 3 hosts, a corporate ownership transfer, a magazine that launched and folded, colleagues who retired, and some who died. Through all of it, Tom Silva has done what any good general contractor does when the conditions around a project shift. He assessed, he adapted, and he kept building. That's the whole story. And at 78, with a nephew running the company and a new generation of tradespeople coming up behind him, it doesn't look like it's close to finished. What do you think about Tom Silva's story? Share with us in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. If this story was moving for you, smash that like button, subscribe for more untold Hollywood tales, and hit the bell so you never miss a drop. Want more? Check out another one of our videos. Thanks for watching.